Senator Cedillo. Dutton?
Here.
Dutton here. Oropeza?
Here.
Oropeza here. Onnested?
Here.
Onnested here. Steinberg?
Here.
Steinberg here.
A quorum has been established. We do have two other members. The Senate is on the floor as we speak, and so you may see members come in and out a little bit. Today, we have a number of items on the agenda. I want to begin. We begin with file item 4, which is the governor's nominee appearing today. And I want to welcome Jerome Horton, who is up for confirmation as a member of the State Board of Equalization. And I think he is here to be introduced by our colleague, Senator Rod Wright. And of course, Mr. Horton is a former colleague of many of ours, and we welcome you to the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Wright.
Mr. Chair, members, it's an honor to be here this afternoon to introduce my friend, Jerome Horton. I, too, served with Jerome in the Assembly, but Jerome is a graduate of Gardena High School in the 25th Senate District. Jerome served with distinction in the Assembly. But relative to this job, members, Jerome also served 20 years as a staff person at the Board of Equalization. This will be a historic appointment in that we've never had someone from our community that has been a part of the Board of Equalization, but more importantly, you have someone who's qualified to do the job, having served as both a legislator and having served as a staff person there. I don't want to belabor all the things that I could tell you about Jerome, his business acumen, the support that he has from both business and labor and a number of other groups. I think Jerome will be a fine addition to the board. I look forward to working with him. We've certainly got a number of small businesses that will be, now recognizing that they have an advocate at the Board of Equalization, and I'm proud to be here to support Jerome's appointment to the Board of Equalization.
Thank you very much, Senator Wright, for taking the time to introduce the nominee. Mr. Horton, it's the tradition of the Rules Committee to allow a nominee to introduce any family or special friends, and it looks like you have a lot of special friends, but at least, member of your family or anybody that you want to introduce, please do so.
Well, Mr. Chair, as you know, my wife is a city clerk in the city of Inglewood, and she had a meeting today, so wasn't able to make it, and my son had to go to school, and my daughter had to go to work, so here I am.
The great answer. You're off to a good start here. Why don't we begin with an opening statement, a brief opening statement, if you would, and then we have a series of questions for you, and then we're going to want to take the testimony from those in support and those in opposition, and committee will deliberate and
I'm going to bail
go from there. Senator Wright, go. Senator Wright, go vote, will you? Right. There you go. Especially my bills. There you go. Okay. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman and members, let me thank you for an opportunity to present on my confirmation to the Board of Equalization. I am indeed extremely humbled and privileged to be here with you. I'm humbled by the support from so many individuals and my colleagues and folks from all over the nation, actually, have been called and offered their support. And it's a very humbling experience, and I want to thank you for an opportunity just to be before you in this regard. I also want to thank the governor for taking the affirmative action to appoint me to the Board of Equalization. He provides me an opportunity to become the first African American to ever serve on the Board of Equalization in its 120-year history. But more importantly, he provides me an opportunity to be the first individual to take this post with over 21 years of experience at the Board of Equalization, where I served as an auditor, an inspector, supervisor, district reviewer, district counsel for a board member in the 4th District, as well as business liaison. So I'm extremely appreciative of this appointment and this opportunity to be here before you. Like many of you, I've spent over 33 years of my life trying to improve the quality of life here in California. I commit to you that I'll do the same type of work at the Board of Equalization. I also want to offer to you that I'll use all the fiber of my knowledge and experience to help you, to work with you, and to seek your guidance in improving the economic status in the state of California, to such a point that we can begin again to provide quality education and take care of every resident in the state of California. With your guidance and support, I will enforce the law as it is written. I believe that we have an opportunity, members, based on an Internal Revenue study that says there's $25 to $45 billion in uncollected taxes due to the underground economy. I will use my investigative skills and my background, 21 years at the Board of Equalization, 10 years in public policy, to begin to address that, to bring those funds back into the coffers of the state of California. I'll need your help in order to be able to do that, members. There is also a report that there is about $13 billion in uncollected debt. I want to focus on that as well. For this, I'll need your help. So not only today do I come to ask for your support of the confirmation, I also come to begin the process of addressing some serious issues. I would ask for a full complement of 100 to 250 investigators and compliance individuals so we can begin to collect that $48 billion, begin to address the $13 billion outstanding debt that exists in the tax agency. We would also seek to focus on bringing the use tax compliance into compliance in the state of California. There's issues of nexus, commerce, and so forth, but I believe with a little cooperative willingness to work in a collective environment that we can address those issues in a way that is not punitive, not aggressive, too aggressive, but also seeks to bring the funds back into the coffers of the state of California. Members, I also like to have your support enhancing the subpoena authority of the Board of Equalization. We'll need that to address many of these problems, in addition to the additional staff. I'm encouraged, and I will seek to encourage the staff at the Board of Equalization to modify the culture, members, to begin to solve problems at the lowest level possible, so that many of these issues do not necessarily matriculate up to the Board of Equalization, to the board members. I believe that we ought to be able to address these issues early. We ought to be able to work with California taxpayers. We ought to be able to develop a partnership, members, that enhances collections for the state of California, that increases the revenue to the state of California, the cash flow, if you will, at the earliest possible point. In order to do that, you've got to have an organization that's willing to work with and extend and create a partnership relationship. With that, we enhance goodwill, we enhance the collection of revenue, and reduce the penalties and the fraud that exists in the state of California. And that's healthy for all taxpayers, because we need these funds. These are tough times, members. And unfortunately, California has not been spared by the crisis that this nation faces. With your support, with your guidance, I intend to use all these skills and all this experience and your knowledge as well. Tend to tap into that. Mr. Chairman and members, with that, I respectfully close on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton. Let us begin some questions and answers, and I'd like to begin, if that's all right, with a series of some focused questions. In terms of, but we all have that same interest that you expressed, and that is collecting the tax dollar that is due the people of California. And we always focus, and specifically want to focus more on the underground economy and how we attack the underground economy. It's true, is it not, that average audits can take between 2 and 3 years? Would you support changes for more timely completion of audits, such as a timelier furnishing of records from business? How aggressive would you be in that regard?
Mr. Chairman, I think there are a couple of things that we need to do relative to accelerating the audit process. One, I'd like to see an interim audit where, with new businesses, we go out early, without the intent of assessing a penalty, but with the intent of providing information and educating the taxpayer on how to comply with the law. oftentimes these mistakes are made totally unintentional. I would bring to mind to the members of this body that 95 to 80% of the taxes in the state of California are self-reported. What we're talking about adjudicating is 2 to 5%. So in accelerating the audit, oftentimes is not always the taxpayer's fault necessarily. So specifically to answer your question, I believe there are a number of things we can do to accelerate it. I would be aggressive in accelerating those audits to ensure that they are completed in a timely manner, but also to ensure that they are completed in accordance with the law and that the rights of the taxpayers are protected as well.
In the matter of the Franchise Tax Board appealing cases decided by the BOE to the Superior Court, do you believe that as a legislature we ought to look at giving the Superior Court jurisdiction over original jurisdiction over more complex cases, or do you believe that the board's jurisdiction is appropriately established here to hear any and all kinds of cases? The reason is, one of, call it judicial economy. If complex cases are ending up in the Superior Court anyways, should we consider having them start there and thus avoid the expense and cost and time of an administrative agency making the initial determination?
Well, Mr. Chair, much like the legislature, the Founding Fathers saw the essence of having a representative form of government intervene in tax matters and the assessment, adjudication, and legislation of tax matters. I believe in that. I believe that the public ought to have a voice in the process and that their voice exists through the representative form of government. However, in relative to the cases that have most recently gone to the Superior Court, to some extent that's been because the Board of Equalization has been simply wrong in their assessment. And so I think there needs to be some work in that area to make sure that when we are adjudicating matters that we are carefully reviewing the law to make sure that we're right, make sure that we're actually interpreting the law and that we're doing what the legislature has directed us to do by virtue of their legislation and not creating legislation ourselves. I don't believe this body should be in place of creating legislation indirectly or directly. I believe our responsibility is basically to enforce the law. But I would defer to the wisdom of this legislature and their adjudication and evaluation of the more extremely complicated items, and will work with you to try to identify those. But I would say this organization has been in existence for 120 years, and it's been working prior to some of the political intervention there.
What was the last comment? Prior to what?
It's been working, and it may need some additional intervention.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. A couple more questions, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. For years, there has been proposals to consolidate the Franchise Tax Board and the Board of Equalization under what's been called a Department of Revenue, headed by a gubernatorial appointee, a cabinet secretary. I want to get your assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of such a consolidation proposal.
Mr. Chair, as you know, I introduced legislation to study this, and we took a good look at it, and it was somewhat cost prohibitive. In order to consolidate these two organizations, we found that they actually have two different institutional systemic systems that had to be meshed together, if you will, from the computer as well as the training and so forth. The other problem that we saw was the auditors that audits for sales tax and those who audit for income tax, even though their skill base is basically the same, their training, they need additional training in order to cross work in that particular area. So I believe, again, that the legislature should study this. And I think that there are some areas relative to the underground economy where we should have consolidation, where we should be working together at a minimum. In the collection area, each of these agencies seek to collect their own liabilities. I believe that there should be some consolidation there, that they should work together, and that may be a means of accelerating the collection of the $13 billion. On the investigation end, when it comes relative to investigation and fraud, well, fraud is fraud. Intent to invade is the intent to invade. Enforcing and aggressively enforcing the law, well, most individuals who are trained and have the professional skills to do that, they can do it irrespective of whether they're EDD or whether they're Board of Equalization or Franchise Tax Board. So there are areas that we can consolidate and be more efficient, but consolidating the entire agency, I think we have to look at the constitutionality of being able to do that and the will of this prestigious body.
The will of this body. Okay. One more series of questions, and then I will turn it over. You stated your goal is to eradicate the tax code of all biases towards race, religion, and sexual orientation. In what ways would you specifically work towards that goal?
Well, members, as you know, the rule 462.042, I'm very supportive of that.
What is that?
What that does is it provides that same-sex marriage individuals have an opportunity to arrange their finances in a way that if one member happens to die, that the benefits are transferred over to the other member. I believe in that, and I think
that's 462.040.
I believe
if
so.
If my memory serves me correct.
I think that's what I said, sir, but I stand corrected if I didn't. I believe that ought to apply. I believe it ought to apply to in other areas as well. I also believe that we need to have parity at the Board of Equalization from the entry level all the way up to the top from an employment perspective. We will certainly seek to outreach and work in that area as well.
Okay, go ahead. Finish, sorry.
There are some complexities in the law, and I recognize those in 1996, 1997, 98. Authored the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights and sought to create under Matt Fong at the time, who was a board member for the State Board of Equalization in L.A., to create an outreach program that reached out to every constituency, regardless of their race, sexual orientation. The goal was to make sure that everyone had the best knowledge to comply with California state law and to avoid penalties and the unnecessary rigorous process of the appeals process.
Let me ask you a couple more questions on the same line. You answered the question about 462.040, the joint tenancy issue as it applies to same-sex partners. It's also true that the Federal Defense of Marriage Act precludes the IRS from treating married same-sex couples and registered domestic partners as spouses for federal income tax purposes. And this often results in increased tax liability for same-sex families and complicated tax filing procedures. Would you support the repeal of DOMA, the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, that would eliminate this situation that I just described?
Well, Mr. Chair, as you know, DOMA is not a matter that's generally considered by the Board of Equalization. I would say that I support comity. I believe that that's important. For example, I think it's important for a driver's license to be recognized in Nevada as well as California, and I think that's the essence of your question. I also believe that states should have the certain prerogatives and support their right to make decisions, and that the federal government should not be overseeing that state by state. So if I may, Mr. Chair, relative to DOMA, although I got a pretty good handle on the law itself, as it relates to taxes. The rest of it, I'm a little vague, and I have to admit to that. But it is my understanding that the Democratic legislature and the president has taken that under consideration at this time, and they have not yet to repeal it. And quite honestly, members and Mr. Chair, I would hesitate to criticize our president relative to this issue or take a position without learning more about it. At this time, I'm not really equipped to, not from a knowledge-based perspective, to be able to say one way or the other. But fundamentally, I believe in comity. I believe that the states ought to have those rights, and I believe that there are some constitutional questions relative to DOMA.
And so let's take it one step farther. If you, after your study, believe that DOMA was in fact an infringement on the state's right to determine the laws around marriage, would you support the repeal of DOMA if your study determined that?
If I studied those and I thought it was unconstitutional and it impeached the rights of a state, yes.
Okay. One more. Due to conflicting income tax treatment at the state and federal level, same-sex couples often confront complicated tax issues when filing their yearly returns. As the BOE member representing major portions of Los Angeles County with some of the highest concentrations of same-sex households in the state, what would you do to provide resources and education to your constituents, especially your LGBT constituents, during tax season?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't believe that that there is a distinction. Well, first let me say, I believe that every constituency in the state of California deserves to have access to all of the information available to the Board of Equalization. They ought to be able to use those resources, and we should make them available to them. The reason I worked on and helped draft the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights of the Board of Equalization, outreach at the Board of Equalization, was because of that fundamental philosophy that education improves compliance with the law. Education minimizes fraud, it minimizes penalties, it minimizes the unnecessary appeals process is very costly to the state of California. The lesbian and gay community, I will continue to reach out to them as I've always done, continue to work with them as I've always done, and continue to provide them with the resources that the Board of Equalization have, but not only that, the personal resources that I have as well. It's a very complex issue in their case. I mean, you have a group that is treated one way under California law, and then as a result of Proposition 8, that there's a group that's changed, and that has an impact on the law as well. And so all of these things, and then you have DOMA, as you mentioned, depending on the outcome of that, could have a serious impact. And we want to work with this community to make sure that they have these resources, they have the knowledge, and that they're comfortable enough to come to the Board of Equalization and work with the members and the staff of the Board of Equalization. It is not only one member, as you know, Mr. Pro Tem, it is your ability to change the culture of an organization that enhances the overall efficiency and responsiveness of that organization. Okay. I intend to work in that direction.
Thank you. Let me turn it over to other members for questions. Senators Dutton or Onnested? At this point, Senator Oropeza.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Horton. It's great to see you again.
How you doing, Senator?
I just have sort of an overarching question that relates to the entirety of your experience, but specifically your BOE experience. Because I don't know the ins and outs of the BOE, I know more of the outs than the ins, but nonetheless, I wonder if you could share with us how you view the benefits and perhaps the downsides, if there are any, to the fact that you have these years of experience as a staff member and now moving into a governance role in the institution. Can you share with us how you view that?
Madam Senator, I think there are those who would believe that with 21 years of experience at the Board of Equalization, every level, from the audit level to the highest level, that I bring not only the credentials but also the credibility. I've worked with the staff members there, been intimately engaged in the struggles that the staff levels at the audit level, which is perceived to be the lowest level, and those at the highest level. I've taken on issues of discrimination. I've taken on issues of equal rights for employees and so forth. I've taken on other issues on behalf of those employees. So of the enormous amount of employees at the Board of Equalization, I am proud to say that the majority of them I count as friends and have a deep relationship with them. I think that relationship will give me a little bit of edge, a little bit of insight into the issues that we face, and the credibility to begin to alter the culture of the organization or to enhance it, depending on the legislative authority provided by this body.
Okay, in addition to that, I want to say that I appreciate the time we spent. We spent some good quality time together talking. Meeting earlier, was it last week? The weeks blend together. And in those conversations, I expressed to you my deep hope that that as you serve in this position, which I believe you will be, at least sent forward by this body, I think, that you I'm going to pick my words carefully here, cognizant of the responsibilities which you have as a person who does indeed represent every person in the state of California, not just one or the other point of view. And you gave me great comfort and assurances about that. I know you as an honorable man, and I trust you. And I'm very happy to support your nomination.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Cedillo, did you have any questions?
No, I'm just pleased to see the candidate here with us today. Let me say, as the chair of the Latino Caucus, we had a meeting this morning. We didn't have quorum, although we were very close. But what we did have is consensus for those who were there early in the morning and support of your record here. Many people acknowledge your leadership and how you reflect your district while you were a legislator. I personally know of your rich history prior to coming to the legislature and the work you've done for working men and women in every circumstance that you've been. And so we were happy to have the candidate before us. And this is one that we applaud the governor for his thoughtfulness. Your qualifications speak for themselves, and they are abundant for this job, and so I move the nomination.
The nomination's been moved, but of course, we want to hear from members of the public before we take a vote. So would those witnesses in support of the nominee come up? Now, I'm going to ask, since there are a lot of people, and I think that in and of itself is a strong showing, but I'm going to ask witnesses to be brief, all right, and to state who you are, your organization, support, and maybe a very brief reason why.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Paula Treat on behalf of the Pechanga Band of Luiseño Mission Indians. We care very much that Mr. Horton has a background at BOE. A lot of groups, including tribes, have been terribly misunderstood on how they actually work. And I think that his background in both working with tribes in the past, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and his knowledge, though, of the BOE will be an asset to everybody.
Thank you very much, Ms. Treat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Angie Way on behalf of the California Labor Federation. Our board voted earlier this month to support Mr. Horton to this important position. We think he'll be a keen overseer of the taxpayers' dollars, and that he will have a strong enforcement hand to crack down on the underground economy. For these reasons, we support him.
Thank you, Ms. Way.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appear on behalf of ACSS, the Association of California State Supervisors. We represent excluded employees who work for the state. Those are the managers, supervisors.
Can you repeat your name again just for the record? I'm sorry.
My name is Olin King, O-L-I-N, last name is King. And I appear on behalf of ACSS, the Association of California State Supervisors. And we represent the management team for the state. We represent managers, supervisors, and confidential employees. And we are an affiliate of the California State Employees Association. I'm very pleased to appear here today before you to urge that you support this nomination for the Board of Equalization. I know that never before has someone been so uniquely qualified for this position as Jerome Horton. As you heard earlier, Jerome has been working for the BOE before in different capacities, and he has also been very active in other kinds of agencies and bodies. He's a member of the Workforce Investment Board, which is a part of the Workforce Investment Act that was passed in 1996 by the federal government. And so he's very multi-talented, multifaceted, and he has demonstrated his fidelity to the rule of law, and I'm sure that he will bring great transparency and fairness to the process. I respectfully urge your support of his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. We really appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Frank Rufino, and I'm also here representing the Association of California State Supervisors. As we said, we urge you to confirm the appointment of former Assembly Member Jerome Horton to the Board of Equalization. Mr. Horton is uniquely qualified through both his employment experience and his political career to serve on the BOE. He worked for the board for 21 years as a supervisor and business tax advisor. He also served for 6 years in the legislature, nearly 4 years on the Inglewood City Council, and as a member of the California Workforce Investment Board and the Culture Endowment Board. He is now the president of Horton and Associates and serves on the board of 2 nonprofit organizations, Great Beginning for Black Babies and United Job Creation Coalition.
Okay.
As a legislator, Mr. Horton created the BOE Tobacco Tax Evasion Unit to control the illegal smuggling of tobacco products. This unit has recaptured more than $700 million in taxes and significantly reduced the illegal sales of cigarettes. He also established State Employees Appreciation Month to educate California citizens about the important role state employees play in our everyday lives.
Why is State Employees Appreciation Month only 1 month? That's what I want to know.
It should be throughout the year, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Horton has the skills necessary to bring fairness and efficiency to the California tax policy, and he's well known as an advocate for programs to help California taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. Rufino. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
My name is Cheryl Brown, and I publish with my husband the Black Voice News. The California Black media supports the appointment of Jerome Horton, not only because of his impeccable credentials, but because, one, he taught us the budget process. He gave us access to how it works. He facilitated several meetings for us to learn about the budget and how to become more engaged, not just as media, but as business owners who do business throughout the state through advertising. We advertise important programs that are available to our community as well as our service community through the state agencies. And he taught us as small businesses the rights and responsibilities of our tax structure. We've been able to use that information to better engage our communities with various state agencies. We confidently support his appointment to the Board of Equalization, and we know that he will do a great job for all Californians. We thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to testify. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, members, Jay Hansen with the State Building Construction Trades Council. We stand here in strong support of Jerome Horton for this position. We've worked with him for many years. Look forward to working with him again, particularly as we work to figure out a way to add more investigators to go after the underground economy. We think there's an ability to do that, and we have every confidence that his skills are going to serve the state of California well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Christy Baumer representing the California Professional Firefighters. We're longtime friends, early and frequent supporters of Mr. Horton. We appreciate the experience he brings, and we're pleased to support his confirmation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baumer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Joey Quinto, Joeyquinto. I'm the publisher of California Journal for Filipino Americans. We support the confirmation of former Assemblymember Jerome Horton to the Board of Equalization because he is qualified and champion of the poor. He has championed the causes of Filipino Americans and all Californians. The Filipino American organizations support the confirmation of former Assemblymember Jerome Horton, such as the Mabuhay Alliance, the Philippine Independence Day Foundation, International Society of Young Filipino Accountants, Search to Involve Filipino Americans, the Philippine American Bar Association, the California Journal for Filipino Americans. His commitment to civil rights and inclusion practices will make him successful representative of the diverse community in California. Millions of Filipino Americans and Californians will appreciate your yes vote to the confirmation of Jerome Horton to the Board of Equalization. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Quinto, very much. We appreciate it. Mr. Ernst.
Good afternoon, Mr. President Pro Tem and members of the committee. My name is Don Ernst. I'm the immediate past president of the Consumer Attorneys of California, and I come here to strongly urge the confirmation of Jerome Horton. He has a history in the Assembly of understanding consumers and a sense of justice. He has a history and experience that I think this state needs that will provide balance, transparency, understanding, and most importantly, heart that I think that the people of the state of California need. The Consumer Attorneys of California strongly support Jerome Horton.
Thank you very much. Mr. Notware.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. My name is Fred Notware. I represent the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. We are here to support Mr. Horton's confirmation for a variety of reasons already mentioned, but I think fairness and equity are the principal reasons. Thank you.
Mr. Notware. Ms. Huffman, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I take great pleasure in being
Name?
Alice Huffman.
Even though we all know you.
Excuse me.
Even though we all know you.
Alice Huffman, State President of the California NAACP. And I take great pleasure being here this afternoon. It is not often that a candidate comes along that's really, really qualified. And when Mr. Horton came to us, I think we were probably one of the first organizations he talked to. We were very enthusiastic. We formed a coalition with the California Black Chamber, with the California Observer representing the black media, and with the Urban League, and asked for a meeting with the governor. And lo and behold, the governor responded by appointing Mr. Horton. So we take, some credit for that.
Sometimes the process works.
Who knows what gets in the governor's head? But anyway, he did it, and we are absolutely thrilled to have an opportunity after so many years not having an African American on the Board of Equalization to have one that is truly qualified and one that the entire African American community is backing. And we do not believe that when he gets there that he's going to represent us only. California is too diverse for that. And we believe wholeheartedly that he will represent all the people. And the NAACP is a very strong advocate for the gay and lesbian community. And we would not back a candidate that we did not think would be fair to that community, and we will also be holding his feet to the fire for the gay and lesbian community. So you don't have to worry, Mr. Chairman. You got a lot of people that will have his back for you. So thank you very much, and we ask you to confirm it.
California, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Paul Gladfelty, representing the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, and we strongly support Mr. Horton's appointment. In the interest of time, I know that it's a busy schedule. There are many, many wonderful things you could say about Mr. Horton, and they're all true. So he's qualified, honest, thoughtful, and will make an excellent Board of Equalization member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gladfelty.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Canick, and I am here in support of Jerome Horton. I first met Mr. Horton when I served as the press secretary for Assemblymember Mervyn Dimely and the Legislative Black Caucus. Outside of those duties, I'm also one of the co-founders of the National Black Justice Coalition, which is the nation's African American gay and lesbian civil rights organization. And while I'm no longer on the board, I'm still very active in the community down in Southern California on LGBT issues. And I'd just like to echo everything that was so eloquently stated by Alice Huffman, and to also say that, the LGBT community does include African Americans, and we will be also holding his feet to the fire and also making sure that he doesn't represent just African Americans, but the entire diverse constituency of California. And I just wanted to reiterate that there is support for this nominee within the LGBT community. I am one of those persons. There are many in Southern California and throughout the state that support Mr. Horton, and I encourage you and ask you to support his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Brooks Ellison on behalf of CASE, California attorneys, administrative law judges, and hearing officers in state employment. And strong support, experience, and commitment make a big difference, and we would echo what a lot of the previous speakers said. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Phyllis Marshall on behalf of the California Black Chamber of Commerce and the California Association of Black Lawyers. We strongly support Assemblymember Jerome Horton to the Board of Equalization. I'd like to reiterate a comment that was made by Senator Orpeza. I've had the pleasure of working with Assemblyman Horton over the years, and indeed he is a man of honor, and he will serve well in this position. Thank you.
Though the chair is left, members, I'm Bruce Allen representing California Society of Certified Public Accountants. We're a 32,000-member organization in California. And not to repeat everything that's said because it was true, we believe that Jerome will make an excellent appointment to the Board of Equalization. He's got the experience, and we believe our members can see him supporting them and the taxpayers of the state. So we urge you to confirm his nomination. Thank you very much.
Members, Jose Mejia, California State Council of Labor, proudly being here in support of Jerome Horton. He will be, as I said earlier several times, he will be a major asset to be able to combat the issues that we face every day in combating the underground economy. And for these reasons and many, many others, and to respect the chair's request to be brief on this, I respectfully request that you consider his nomination to BOE. Thank you.
Members, my name is Patrick Finnegan. I'm a certified public accountant. I had the pleasure of working with Jerome Horton for 20 years at the Board of Equalization. During those 20 years, I also spent 15 years as labor steward for SEIU 1000. One other thing that Jerome did not mention is that he was an instructor of tax law during his career at the Board of Equalization. He instructed the majority of our senior staff on tax law, statistical sampling, and the operations of the tax laws and regulations. As such, we definitely support Jerome Horton for the Board of Equalization. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the committee. My name is Ani Bedrosian Edemi, and I am the president of the Armenian American Chamber of Commerce. I am here today on my own behalf and behalf of all the Armenian members, chamber officers, and board members who signed a letter in enthusiastic support of the confirmation of the Honorable Jerome Horton to the California State Board of Equalization. On this historic day, the Armenian community is proud of our good friend, Jerome Horton, as he has been with us throughout the years on the many and varied issues that are important to our community. We look forward to seeing Mr. Horton build on the great work he has done while on the board staff as an Inglewood City Councilman and a legislator. He is uniquely qualified for this important position, and the historic nature of his confirmation is a great consequence to all of us Americans. Based on the foregoing, we wholeheartedly urge Jerome Horton's speedy confirmation to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Alan Davenport with the Service Employees International Union. You've heard Jerome's career in state government, which preceded him into this job. I'm here to say that during his 6 years in the Assembly, and I was the lobbyist representing SEIU, I had occasion to have many extensive conversations with Jerome Horton. He's a listener as well as a talker. Okay, he takes everything into consideration, and I'm genuinely pleased with the way he thinks about things and how he comes to reach his decision. He takes everything into consideration. Our janitors support him. Our security officers support him. He's good for our organizing campaigns, not just because he understands us and our issues, but because he understands management and their issues. He's helped us negotiate agreements and mediate disputes that no one else could do. We're very pleased to endorse him.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I see you picked up the gavel, so I'll be quick. I'm Larry Lee with the Sacramento Observer newspaper, representing the West Coast Black Publishers Association and the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and we stand here unified in support of Mr. Horton. We think that a yes vote for him would be a yes vote for decency and fiscal responsibility, so we're proud to support him. Thank you.
The Lee family, a great family of Sacramento.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, member Scott Wetch on behalf of the California State Association of Electrical Workers, the California State Pipe Trades Council, and the Western States Council of Sheet Metal Workers, proudly in support of this confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wetch.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Shea, serving as acting board member from the 4th District. I want to pledge my support for Mr. Horton and let him know that I stand ready to work with him to ensure a smooth transition with the board hearings coming up in the next couple of months. Thank you.
And let me just take the opportunity to thank you, Mr. Shea, for stepping in for your public service and I hope continued public service. With the board, you bring a great deal of expertise to all the work that you do. Steve was on my appropriations staff when I was chair of the Assembly Appropriations Committee, and a fine individual. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Pat Cackama with the UAW. Everything that's been said is
Say it again. Say it again. All right.
He's a great friend. He do a wonderful job, and definitely a great support.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Mr. Chair, Edwin Lombard. I'm an advocate for minority small businesses throughout the state of California. Today I'm here representing the Black Business Association and the Black Business Council, and we strongly recommend Jerome Horton for the State Board of Equalization, and we ditto everything that's been said prior to our being here. Thank
you very much, Mr. Lombard. Appreciate it. Are there witnesses in opposition to Mr. Horton? No witnesses in opposition. All right, Senator Cedillo, a question from Senator Onestad. Excuse me.
Well, I just wanted to join the crowd. I know about his experience, and I know about who he is, and but I've had a chance over the last 6 years to also see his heart, and this man is not only well-educated and experienced and qualified for the job. He's the kind of person you want to be your next-door neighbor who's going to decide your fate in tax court. I'm happy to second his nomination.
Thank you, sir. Very good. Bipartisan support. Senator Cedillo made the motion. Would you like to?
Yes, I want to thank you for your questions and vetting this out. There were some positions, and we take those concerns seriously. But we've also, and you, through your leadership, have addressed them and made sure we brought them front and forward. I got the full airing of the hearing, and so with that.
Thank you very much, and I'm pleased to support your nomination as well.
Yes, Chair.
And we talked in my office about this, and some of it came up today. Is that when you take a position of high authority, which you're about to take. And I agree with everyone. I think you'll do a fine job. You know the area. You've 21 years. You know the legislative process. Everything ought to be about looking forward, just looking forward, and working with every constituency. And I know you will do that. You are a hardworking member of the Assembly, and I know you'll apply equal dedication to being the first African American member of the State Board of Equalization. So we're proud to support your nomination. Let's call the roll, please.
Senator Cedillo? Aye. Cedillo, aye. Dutton? Aye. Dutton, aye. Oropeza? Aye. Oropeza, aye. Onestad? Aye. Onestad, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
This will go to the floor, Mr. Horton, and we will take up your nomination certainly before Friday, and maybe as early as this after. I gotta ask Nettie. You think I make these decisions? As early as today or tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. We have a special announcement to make before we move on to the next nominee before the committee. We want to bring forward, under the bright and stern lights of this committee, Jackie Forbes. Is she here? She's coming that way today. Well, geez. We tried a dramatic introduction here, but
think she's
Okay. We want to summon Jackie Forbes before this committee here for some very important business. Jackie, the committee, the members and the staff and the entire Senate want to thank you for your 40 years of service to the Senate.
Did you have to say that?
Sorry. You started when you were 5. Jackie is our Deputy Director of Appointments in the Rules Committee. She began in 1969. She's been part of the Appointments Unit since Senator Roberti created it in 1982. And, you know, the confirmation process, as all of you have been part of it, is difficult, challenging, and I hope you all realize the amount of preparation that goes into each of these hearings. And Jackie has participated in, right there, in literally thousands of confirmations over your tenure. And we can't thank you enough for devoting your much of your adult life to helping the people of the state of California. And here is a very small token of our appreciation. Make your way around, please.
That's nice.
Very nice. Jackie tells us that she's going to be doing a lot of traveling and golfing, and I'm officially jealous. That's pictures. You want to take a picture with the entire committee here? Yeah. Well, we're going to take a brief break, and maybe we could take some pictures here. All right? Brief break.